Governor Polis makes a billion-dollar power grab, deciding himself where all that money should go after telling you that your locally elected lawmakers should decide. An enormous new cut to education funding in our state, a budget slashing that is bringing out true emotion from the people who know how this will affect Coloradans. State public health officials push back in the strongest terms against a Republican legislator who accused them of the crime of falsifying death certificates. We break down the true cost of food delivery services versus ordering directly from restaurants, and a mail carrier's quiet gesture for graduating seniors. Not so quiet anymore. This is next.
Governor Jared Polis said one thing, and he did another. The Democratic governor seized control of $1.5 billion in federal relief funds after telling you that Democrats and Republicans in the state legislature would decide how to spend that money. It's the job that you elected them and sent them there to do. Here's Polis last month explaining who was going to control that enormous pot of money.
The legislature has the power of the purse. So the JBC, the members of the legislature, are going to work through this. And that means they're going to have their competing interests that they're going to need to balance, right? They're going to be hearing from their mayors and their counties saying we need help. They're also going to be hearing from their school districts and others that get funded by the state saying, wait a minute, if you're sending money there, it means there's less money for schools. So that's the work that we do in representative government. We, of course, look forward to working with the JBC and with the legislature.
The governor's $1.6 billion power grab came as a surprise to legislators who perhaps believed what the governor told them and you last month. They talked today with politics guy Marshall Zellinger.
Here's how Colorado's budget normally works. State lawmakers get to decide how to divide the piggy bank. It starts in November, when the governor presents his budget proposal to the 6 lawmakers who make up the Joint Budget Committee. Those 6 take that recommendation and recommendations from each state department and decide what money should go where. The Joint Budget Committee sends the final proposal, called the long bill, to all 100 lawmakers to debate, add or subtract here and there, and then send to the governor. The governor can sign, veto, or line item veto, meaning subtracting certain parts, but the governor can't normally unilaterally spend money, like Monday, when Governor Polis dished out $1.67 billion in federal emergency money.
The CARES Act legislation, as it's written, I would say is ambiguous. Right. On who has the ability to allocate that funding.
If there's one thing the Democrat and Republican members of the Joint Budget Committee can agree on, it's how they found out the governor spent money he said they were going to spend.
We didn't have a ton of advance notice.
I read the press release on social media.
I actually had a call from the governor just about the same time the press release came out. He said that we didn't have time to wait for the legislature. We had to get the money out.
In his Monday night executive order, the governor gave more than $500 million to K through 12, $450 million to higher education, and $270 million to local governments that did not get CARES Act funding directly. It all has to be used to facilitate compliance with COVID-19 related public health measures. Kind of broad. So can the legislature undo the governor's check writing?
I don't believe we do, because we actually are in a state of emergency right now, and the legislature's not in session.
We are going to be working on measures, perhaps legislation, to really make sure that that accountability exists.
I asked the governor's office for a response what happened between 1 month ago and his actions last night. I got a long paragraph that seems like a PR statement talking about how they have unique challenges, that the governor acted quickly and urgently, and at the very end it talks about how the administration works closely in a bipartisan way with the federal delegation and legislative leadership, but apparently not giving enough heads up to the JBC members, Kyle.
And Marshall, again, this goes back to the fact that so long as we are under this state of emergency, the governor has the ability to grab all kinds of powers, constrained only by what's specifically written into the state constitution. And then I guess if there are guardrails put up by lawsuits, if people sue him.
And until the legislature is back, which is next Tuesday, there is no action right now that lawmakers can take to overrule what the governor is doing.
All right, Marshall Zellinger, thank you so much. Colorado needs to cut more than $3 billion from its budget this year and next. Today, the amount of general fund money that goes into education was cut in half. according to our partners at Colorado Politics. These cuts are taking an emotional toll on the budget staffers who know about the lives that are impacted by the deep cuts already decided.
That's $1.5 billion. That's unprecedented in my 25 years here. The problem is, it's a $3.5 billion problem. So we still have $2 billion to go.
Joint Budget Committee is supposed to get the budget finalized so that they can start debate on it on Tuesday. On the record and recorded, the state health department is issuing a clear denial that it did not doctor death certificates. A Republican state legislator made that claim without evidence. Our Chris Vanderveen put the question directly to Kirk Ball, who heads up Vital Records.
Has anyone from CDPHE falsified any death certificate in the last few months because of COVID?
Unequivocally, no. CDPHE has not altered any death certificates or directed coroners to complete death certificates to any cause of death other than what they have determined as their best medical judgment and opinion.
The state did recently make a key change in the way that it reports the numbers to the public. They're now separating the deaths that are certainly from the virus from instances where somebody tested positive and then they died. Our state's coronavirus hospitalization numbers continue to hover around the mid-400s for the last few days after a steady decline from the end of April on. 43 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last day. Colorado is still well short of its revised down testing goal. 10,000 got cut to a goal of 8,500 a day, yet we still sit at a bit more than 3,000 tests per day. Have you ordered food through one of those third-party delivery sources, the apps, only to be told, well, you really should just be calling the restaurant? Our Steve Steger got app-shamed like that, so he's trying to learn how much local restaurants lose out when we order third-party.
On the website for Leven Deli in Denver, they say they'd prefer you order your food directly from them, even though they are listed on third-party sites.
Pick it up for Steve.
So I did.
I got a pastrami Reuben.
The sandwich for me, the salad for the future Mrs. Steger, and a chicken hoagie for Chris Hansen behind the lens. The total, with sides, came out to $46.44.
The restaurants are the business of counting nickels and dimes, not dollars.
Leven Deli's owner, Anthony Leguizzo, says he prefers orders like mine because he doesn't have to pay any commission to an ordering app. Commissions that can run as high as 30%, according to Sonia Riggs with the Colorado Restaurant Association.
It makes it hard for restaurants to make any money at all.
We contacted the three big ones today, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and GRUBHUB. Uber didn't get back to us. DoorDash wouldn't disclose numbers. GRUBHUB said it charges restaurants anywhere from 10 to 20% per order for a marketing fee, 3% for a processing fee, and 10% if a customer wants something delivered.
I'm seeing cases where restaurants are either barely breaking even on their third-party deliveries or they're losing money.
Leven stopped listing itself on the apps before the pandemic for that very reason, but they're back because of COVID.
At the end of the day, our restaurant, just like I think any others, will take what they can get.
Anthony says he was able to negotiate a 12.5% rate on GRUBHUB because of the pandemic. Now, had I ordered the same $46 order through GRUBHUB, I would have paid more than $50 because Leven raised its prices on apps to make up the commission difference.
They're really not evil, but if you want to vote with your dollars, you definitely order through those restaurants directly.
So this is a double-edged sword because Anthony says he's gotten bad reviews because his things are priced higher on the apps. DoorDash, by the way, like GRUBHUB, says they've cut their commissions because of the pandemic. And the Colorado Restaurant Association is pushing state and local leaders for a cap on these commission rates. Denver City Councilman Chris Hines told me on Twitter today that he is watching other cities like Jersey City who have initiated this cap to try to save restaurants, Kyle.
At the end of the day, though, at least know what you're getting into and know where your money is going. I appreciate that information. It's something to consider when you reach for the phone and you put in an order.
Yeah, you also got to think there are delivery drivers who need this money too, so they're working for those apps. So the apps could use the money as well. But they're saying if you really want to support a restaurant, give them a call and see what they prefer. There are a lot of restaurants that don't have delivery and rely on these apps to do the delivery for them.
Oh, smart call. All right. Thank you, Steve.
We can dance if we want to, just please don't use TikTok to spy, because national security don't dance, and if it don't dance, Colorado Republicans blame the Chi-Coms for why. Graduating seniors in Arvada are getting a gift from someone they barely know. That's next.
During that commercial break, the state just dropped its draft guidelines for restaurant reopenings. So I'm literally just going to read to you what just came in from the state, and then I'll post it on Twitter for you to see. These are the draft guidelines, which are subject to revision by the state. But they're calling for a reopening of dining in at restaurants with a minimum of 8 feet of spacing between tables, limiting party size to 6 people or less. Outdoor seating, again, 8 feet spacing between parties. All employees must wear facial coverings and gloves, and they're talking about deep cleaning and sanitizing the tables between each sitting. There are heavier restrictions on bars. In fact, it's not clear from what I'm seeing how much they're actually going to be able to loosen up from what they can currently do right now. I'm going to dig back into these guidelines while we talk about weather.
A record high of 92 degrees in Denver today, in spite of the fact there's a lot of moisture coming into Colorado from the south. Isolated severe cells have popped up around Colorado Springs and Pueblo. In Denver, it's wind and lightning that we're watching. And the heat, the first day in the 90s for the season, and this eclipses the old record of 90 set back in 2009. Temperatures will run above average for one more day. We're tracking isolated storms moving quickly to the north tonight. And then tomorrow we'll see additional thunderstorms north of the metro area. The high bay storms producing wind and lightning will move out by 9 o'clock. 56 is your low. 84 with mostly sunny skies on Wednesday. A couple of late day storms and then a cooling trend for Thursday. Warmer weather heading into the weekend. Thunder showers a part of your forecast on Sunday and for the holiday on Monday.
Keynote from those guidelines that I read when I was not listening to the weather forecast particularly is that the capacity of restaurants inside and outside, they simply say based on the science to be determined. And a lot of folks had questions about the capacity. Well, the lawsuit was fundraising while it lasted, but Rocky Mountain gun owners' suit against Colorado's red flag gun control law got tossed out of court today. That No Compromises gun rights group went after the law which allows a judge to temporarily seize somebody's weapons if they're deemed to be a risk. Rocky Mountain gun owners didn't sue over the constitutionality. They went after the process at the state legislature, and the court ruled it was a political decision, not a legal one. So TikTok is a thing. Not for me, because I'm over the age of 30 and I can't dance, but it's a thing. And 2 Republican congressmen from Colorado are convinced that China could use TikTok to spy on them. So before some member of Congress with a sense of rhythm and an idea of appealing to anybody under the age of 30 decides to get fresh with this, Congressman Ken Buck and Scott Tipton are co-sponsoring legislation to ban downloading TikTok on any government device. TikTok is owned by a Chinese company. The U.S. military was concerned enough it banned it from its devices last year, and a bipartisan group in Congress asked for a national security investigation. Next, producer Kevin suggested that now I should reference some popular music. I'm not sure exactly what it was about. I didn't have time to Google it, so instead we'll just move on with the program.
She's sort of like your grandma. Always good for $20 in a card on special occasions. But she's no relative.
I'm fortunate enough to be an essential worker. I got my stimulus check. Why not spread the cheer?
It's kindness delivered. Next.
Count among the bonds strengthened during this pandemic those between Coloradans and the people who deliver our mail. We've seen it again and again. A mail carrier in Littleton shared with us that a young lady named Maya left him this note, thanking him for all his work during the pandemic. The picture there is Patrick, the mail carrier, warding off the virus to deliver the mail. Maya asked that Patrick share the note with his fellow postal workers. He mentioned to us that Maya really brightened what had started off as a tough day for him. And you know that connection goes both ways. A viewer named Ben alerted us to something that a mail carrier in Arvada is doing for the graduating seniors along her route. Tiffany Buskirk has been delivering a heartfelt connection to each of those teenagers.
For about 2 weeks, as I was driving my mail route, I was looking out for yard signs that said congratulations to the class of 2020. To get an actual letter, you know, sometimes it's hard to come by. I don't know your name and you probably don't know mine, but I can guarantee you recognize the vehicle I drive around the neighborhood. This little note is for me, your letter carrier, Tiffany. I saw the yard signs of the 2020 graduates and wanted to give you all a little something.
It's definitely been sad. I never really got to say goodbye to my teachers.
I took some time to write a personalized letter, kind of generic in a way, you know, that I can give to everybody.
The letter was nice because it's just a nice gesture and it kind of makes you still feel connected.
I'm fortunate enough to be an essential worker. I got my stimulus check. Why not spread the cheer? And I just decided that I would give all the graduates $20 on my route. Congratulations. This is only the beginning. You're a star in the making. Just like the current state we are in, the road ahead will also have its share of obstacles. Hopefully, when they go off to college or whatever they're doing in their career life, they remember that a random stranger passed on an act of kindness and they'll do the same. Best of luck for your future. Congratulations, class of 2020. Sincerely, your letter carrier, Tiffany Buskirk.
That's fantastic. A next viewer has a question that is better directed to my boss than me. So we'll ask the boss live in your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is the return of a popular place to hook up out on the Eastern Plains. Southeastern Colorado used to be the place to go to meet chicks if you were a lesser prairie chicken. Tens of thousands of them were clucking around with each other out there, but they gradually disappeared over time. Colorado Parks and Wildlife brought some back from Kansas, and now they tell us there are 20 spots where they are breeding again in eastern Colorado and western Kansas. Finish with your feedback. On Twitter, somebody asked, will there be an exception in the reopening restaurant guidance for larger families? Because the draft guidance says a maximum of 6 per party. The draft guidance makes no suggestion about an allowance for large families, but again, this is just draft guidance. It's going to be altered before Monday's big announcement. Mark says next is straight up Polis propaganda at this point. Mark, did you see the top of the show where we talked about how the governor said one thing, did another, enormous $1.6 billion power grab? Oh, whatever. Link says, Kyle, we love you, but how about filming from your backyard or another room? Honey, can we do that?
No.
You heard my wife. It's a no. We stay in the basement. I'll see you next time.